Welcome to the course, How to Implement Management by Objective. This is another series of our Performance Management DIY. In this course, we'll be looking at strategy objectives, how to go about mapping of strategic objectives, alignment of the objectives, rating scales, grading grid, calculating performance, reporting dashboard for MBO, and outcome management. You will discover that there are some parts of this course that you will find in the other modules of the performance management DIY series. But however, what we've done is to tailor each component to the performance management tool being discussed. Okay, for this course, we'll be looking at an online travel company. Now, if you look at this, our online travel company, the company has got 9 strategic objectives. One is to lower cost of operations by 30%. Number 2 is to increase profitability by 13%, meaning that they want to do 13% more on their profitability level compared to the last financial year or financial period, as the case may be. They want to increase their revenue by 55%. They want to reduce customer waiting time to 1 minute. Peradventure, customers to get to wait longer than 1 minute before now. They want to retain 80% of their customers. They want to optimize their process across the different customer touch points. They want to drive a faster output. They also want to improve critical skills across the organization. And lastly, they want to improve operational tools. Next will be for us to look at how we can map these objectives. Remember, this is managing by objectives. Okay, before we go into how we can carry out mapping of objectives as far as MBO is concerned, I think it's important for me to touch base on the seemingly difference between what you'll be learning today and the traditional approach to managing by objective. Managing by objective is all about more about an agreement between the line supervisor and the direct report. The direct report saying, oh, this is what I can do, this is what I can bring to the table, and both of them agree, and the direct report goes ahead to deliver on agreed goals. However, what I'll be teaching here today is to see how we can work from the strategic viewpoint and have it cascaded across the organization, even knowing fully well that what we are doing is to deploy the use of MBO. So in mapping objectives here, I'm referring to the strategic objectives. Now, when you have those strategic objectives, there is a possibility of you linking each of those objectives to specific departments within the organization. So that's what we have here. So to your left, you have the strategic objectives, which are definitely lower cost of operations, or all the 9 objectives that was listed out in the previous slide. Then to your right, we have the departments within this online travel company. Now, in this company, we have the call center, we have affiliate sales, we have quality assurance, we have IT infrastructure, we have web development, we have human resources, you have finance. Now, if you look at each of these strategic objectives, the question you want to ask yourself is, which of these strategic objectives speaks directly to a particular department within the organization? Now, first one here is lower cost of operations. Now, if you think of lowering cost of operations, what you get to understand from that statement is that as a business, we want to cut down on our expenses. And in cutting down on expenses, it speaks to virtually all the departments within an organization. So in mapping this strategic objective, you can easily map it to all the departments within the organization. Each of the departments has got a role to play. Now, if you go to increase profitability, from increasing profitability, definitely there are some departments that you can easily map increased profitability to. A good example is to map it to finance, to map it to call center, to map it to affiliate sales. You need to understand the business of your organization in order to be able to do this. And again, it's also important that you sit with people who also know the business so that they can help in the course of mapping all of these objectives. Now, once you're done with this mapping, the next thing you want to do is to go on to alignment of these objectives across the organization. Okay, let's talk about alignment of objectives. Now, the strategic objectives, lower cost of operations, was mapped to human resource. Now, when this set of strategic objectives is shared with the human resource department, the human resource department in this online travel company sits down and, as far as this strategic objective is concerned, identify key result areas. And from what we have on the screen shows that some of these key result areas identified within the human resource department are recruitment, onboarding, learning and development, for example. Now, what will be done afterwards is to now identify roles within the human resource department. So you have the first column to your left, which says objectives. The objective there is lower cost of operations, the key result area. Now, this key result area speaks directly to the function of the talent management officer. So remember, it needs to speak to the function of the portfolio owner you're trying to come up with a set of KPIs for. Then under recruitment, the KPI agreed between the line manager and the direct report is that 100% of recruitment executed, or 100% of recruitment must be executed internally. So what it means is that perhaps before now, what has been happening is for any vacancy that is to be filled within the organization, they just call on their recruitment consultant to start sourcing for the candidates. Now, with this, what it means is that the talent management officer needs to take on the responsibility of recruitment. Because what we are saying now is that 100% of the recruitment will be carrying out within this period must be executed internally. So the talent management officer will need to start thinking of creative ways to ensure that talents are readily available for positions that I demand. Must come up with a strategy to make this happen. Also, the key result area here is onboarding. And what we have as a KPI is a 60% onboarding executed virtually. So probably what has been happening before now is onboarding happens at a central location. So the company spends a lot to move new hires from different parts of the country to a particular location and have them trained in class and all of those things. So what is being said here is that Mr. Talent Management Officer, what you need to do is look at our portfolio or at our curriculum or activities around onboarding and ensure that 60% of what we do will be deployed virtually. So that's a KPI for the Talent Management Officer. It's also important that in coming up with all these KPIs, there is need for, you can talk about milestones, there is need for timelines as well. Then beyond the strategic objectives that were used in deriving KPIs for the talent management officer, there are also some critical areas or objectives that can be derived within the department to also ensure that the overall strategic objective is also being effected. So what we have here is design a competency framework. Perhaps before now, the organization never had a competency framework. Competency framework is an essential tool in HR, and then the key result area obviously is in talent management, because talent management involves a whole lot of things. And KPI is that 100% completion of the competency framework, which means that we need to come up with our own competency framework. So this is what the alignment of objectives looks like. Now, what we've done is to look at HR and see how we can cascade or align objectives from the departmental level to portfolio owners within HR. The same thing is expected to happen across the other departments, so that the strategic objectives of the business is being felt across the business within functional provisions of our online travel company. So part of building your MBO system is to have a rating scale which will be used in appraising the performance of portfolio owners. So we'll go to rating scales. Okay, rating scales. Now, what the rating scales does for us is to make the process of appraising performance very, very easy, because there will be different degree of performances within a department, within an organization, amongst a collection of people. So with a rating scale, it is easy for you to say this person should get a 1, this person should get a 2, this person should get a 3. So what we have here are 3 different kind of rating scales. There are more, as the case may be. So the first one there is linked scales, which is one from scale 1 to 5. It's like a 5-point system. You have a 3-point system, which is 1 to 3. Now, if you look closely at 3-point system, the 1 is a scale of unacceptable performance, and the description there is that performance was below expectation. So that means 100% of goal was not achieved. 2, meet expectation, performance achieved was 100% of goal. 3, exceed expectation, meaning that the individual delivered more than 100% of the goals expected. Now, the last one there is a 5-point system, 1 to 5, 1 being unsatisfactory performance, failed to deliver task, unexpected deliverables within guidelines, quality, budget, and timeline, achieved below 50% of expectation. Then 5 is outstanding performance. So for each of these points, there is a description that says and makes it clear for the assessor to be able to assess an assessee very easily. Now, for a 3-point system, what it does is it's either you are there achieving your goals, delivering 100%, or you are not. While for a 5-point, there's provision for, maybe you were able to do minus 30 or plus 30. So this makes it easy for flexibility in terms of rating. Now, you need to decide on which of these rating scales would work for your organization, and it also depends on the kind of culture you're trying to build around performance monitoring, and also driving performance from a general point of view. So the next thing we'll be discussing will be your grading grid. Yeah, the grading grid. What does the grading grid does for us? So once all ratings are completed and all summation are carried out, the necessary calculations are done, what the grading grid does is that it makes it easy for us to plot performance or to plot individuals into a grid. So what you have here is an example of a grid. So here means that below 50% performance is unsatisfactory, while 91% degree and above 91% percentage and above performance is outstanding performance. Now 51% to 70% is fairly satisfactory. 71% to 80% means the individual achieved expectation. So once you're done with computation, you can easily plot those individuals into any of these performance gradings, and you can have indicators providing description as to what needs to be done to support these individuals based on the the point they found themselves as far as the performance grading is concerned. So now, in terms of the distribution of these percentages, it is not cast in stone. You need to think of what would work or what you're trying to achieve within your organization. I've seen situations whereby some organizations will tell you that you see this below 50% unsatisfactory performance is too low for us. We'd rather have it at 70%. So it depends on what you want to. What kind of are you trying to build a culture of aggressiveness when it comes to performance and delivering of results and things like that? So you need to sit down with decision makers to agree the philosophy that will drive your performance and culture, your performance strategy. Okay, the period most people dread has come, which is appraisal proper. Now, let's assume that an appraisal cycle has been completed and a performance cycle has been completed and there is need for appraisal. Now let's go back to our talent management officer who goes by the name Tony. Now part of the KPIs that was assigned to Tony at the start of the performance cycle is that 100% of recruitment that's to be carried out within the company should be handled by Tony internally with his team if there's a team. Then 60% of the onboarding exercise should be done virtually, and in the bit of designing a competency framework for the organization, it is important that within that performance cycle, Tony does deliver on the competency framework. Now, for each of these KPIs are weight assigned to them. The KPI with the most weight is the bit of recruitment being executed internally. Then you now have the bit of completion of the competency framework, which is weighted 30%. Then followed by the onboarding, which is to be carried out virtually. So if you add all these weights together, it equates 100%. Now, in terms of the rating scale, when we talked about rating scale, which makes it easy for the assessor to be able to appraise who is being appraised easily. Now, you will see that our online company has decided to go with a 5-point scale, and the maximum point you can give for a 5-point system is a 5. So at the point of having a dialogue between the line manager and the direct report for the bit of executing recruitment internally, 100%, by the definition of the ratings of the organization, Tony scored a 2. Now, if you go to onboarding, he scored a 1, and design of competency framework a 1. I mean, if you talk about a 1, probably he really didn't deliver on those other 2. Now, in terms of calculating the overall score for each of those KPIs, what simply happens is to pick the final score, which is 2, divide it by the maximum score, which is 5, and you multiply it by the weight assigned. That gives you the score for that KPI. The same thing you will do for each of the other KPIs, which gives you the overall percentage score for Tony. Now you go back to your grading grid, you will now look for 30%. 30%, where is 30% seated? So obviously that's unsatisfactory performance. Anything below 50% by the grading grid we have in this course. If MBO is the only appraisal tool being deployed, that means that's the final score for Tony. However, there are stations whereby MBO can be combined with BRAS, and probably it might do well when it comes to evaluation of BRAS, and you had all of those together. And I mean, you need to think of what will work within your organization and the bit of calculating all of these things. So the next thing we'll be talking about will be the reporting dashboard. Okay, reporting is very, very important. As a matter of fact, you need to introduce a reporting dashboard for all your departments within the organization. Now, this reporting dashboard should also reflect at the corporate level. So what you have here is an example of a reporting dashboard for a department. Now, this speaks directly to human resource department. What you expect that the human resource department will do is to have all the objectives that sit on the scorecards of all individuals, all the key result areas, all the KPIs, then the timelines for each of those KPIs, and what is being achieved per time. So from example, it makes a lot of sense that monthly performance review should happen. Some instances, weekly performance review should happen, and you also have the owners in front of each of those KPIs, and there's room for remarks. Now, once all of these things, by the way of formularization, it will also throw up the percentage overall performance for the department, so that departments don't need to wait till the end of an appraisal, a performance cycle, to know the overall performance of the department. So it's very, very important that this be included in your performance management framework as well. So the next thing we'll be discussing will be outcome management. Right, quickly, before we talk about outcome management, permit me to quickly introduce you to editable templates on femajomo.com. As part of the many templates you'll find on the site, is also editable template for your MBO, for management by objective. All you need to do is just do your own tweaking, edit here and there. Then you also have access to all other tools like the rating scale, the grading grid, the outcome management itself, and many other things. So please explore the site for the templates. Outcome management. So the big question here is, what happens after all of this beautiful work? What happens after all of this appraisal? Now, that is what outcome management or consequence management is meant to take care of. For those who are exceptional in terms of delivering on results, and for those who have been consistent in terms of not delivering on expectations, what would happen to them? What kind of reward will be handed on to the degrees of performance? That is what your consequence management framework should will attend to. So what you have here is just a simplistic table that shows your performance grading, the description for each of the levels of performance, the performance consequences, and where there is need for support, the kind of support that will be given to each performance level. So you can work on this, you can tweak it, but it's very, very important that you sit with stakeholders, decision makers, to craft something that is tailored to your organization. It's very, very important. As a matter of fact, the objective here is to drive development of your staff pool, to ensure that your pool of staff are motivated, both extrinsic and intrinsic. So that is what it is. Let's quickly talk about some MBO nuggets. Right. It's important that we speak to some of these things. Management by objective is traditionally built around agreeing goals between line managers and their direct reports. It's not about dishing out goals or dishing out targets and all of those. Those who are expected to work the goals are expected to sit down and also provide input into what they can deliver vis-a-vis what is available to them in terms of resources and their capacity and ability. So traditionally, that's what MBO drives. Timelines are also important. because when you talk about people coming to say, "Oh, this is what I can do during this period," and you go back and forth and agree on such things, it is important that those deliverables also have timelines attached to them, because you don't want someone just taking eternity to deliver on some goals. MBO provides an opportunity for immediate feedback. Now, because these are deliverables that you've taken out time to ensure that there is a high level of objectivity, the KPIs are straight to the point, easily measurable. There are timelines to them. So there are some of those goals that you necessarily don't need to wait till the end of the appraisal cycle to appraise them. Some are delivered even within weeks. So as it happens, you can give those feedback. Even in the process of delivering on the end goal, you can give feedback. So these three nuggets are very, very important in the course of you working with management by objectives. So on that note, I would say we've come to the end of the short course on management by objectives. I encourage you to take on the challenge of deploying one in your organization. As a matter of fact, you really don't need to start across the organization. You can even try it out within a part of the business. On that note, good luck.